Hello friends, welcome to our canal channel Jose. Today we're going to give you an idea how we do the replacement on our rear brake shoes on a 98 to 2004 Nissan Frontier two-wheel drive or four-wheel drive. And we're going to be doing the procedure so you can see how it's done and if you want to do it at home or you want to take it to a shop. And with that said, let's get started. So one thing we have done is we have secured the tires from the front because the back are going to be off the ground. So we have no brake and no transmission holding the weight of the truck so it doesn't roll. So now we have secured this. So now we have lifted our truck and we have put a jack stand on the axle and we took the wheel off. So now we can start removing the drum so we can get to the brake shoes. So here's our brake shoes, and these are the part number for this Nissan Frontier is a 574. And there's the part number, there's another part number that can fit, but it's not for this drum. It's for a bigger drum. It's a 631. So this is the one that we take for our truck because these are 10.24 inches long by 1.96. The 631 are 11.61 inches long by 1.96 inches wide. So they're the same width, but the brake shoe is bigger on the 631. So this one is a smaller brake shoe. So you gotta know which brake shoe it takes depending on the drum. So you just wanna know, you gotta measure end to end of the brake shoe where it touches the drum and see how long is that arch in a straightways. So that's gonna tell you, you remove your drum, measure it, and see how long it is to see if you got the smaller or the bigger brake shoe. So now that we have our brake shoes exposed, now what we do is first put our brake shoe, one of our new brake shoes, right on top of it, and we're gonna see if what we are putting in is what we have in the truck. So if that's the same, then we can just start removing components. So now that we have proved that this is our brake shoes that have to go in there, now we can start taking this apart, but we're gonna clean a little bit so there's no dust flying around as well. So now that we have everything ready to go, the first thing we're gonna do is we're gonna take this securing point off of the brake shoe on the front one. So now our shoe is just sitting there with the tension on this spring and the tension on this other spring. So what we're gonna be doing is we're gonna pull it from the bottom outwards towards the front, and we're gonna bring it out from this sheet metal right here so it pops in the outside, and then we're gonna force it this way a little bit so we can take this spring off of here because these are really strong springs. So we're gonna take it off from there. That's the trick. So then once we do that, we can come up here and start working on this spring as well. So now that our brake shoe is just sitting there, there's this spring that is holding tension against the piston. Both brake shoes are brought in by that spring, so there's a lot of tension. There's tension on there. So and then the adjustment of the adjustment is right here as well. But right now we have to remove all this because there's less tension on this now, so we can start working all these brake shoes off and start installing the new ones. You want to be careful with these springs. These have a lot of tension. You try to pull them while they're on, you can cut yourself. So we're showing you a little bit of how we do it. Now this securing point as well for the rear brake shoe, we're gonna take it off so we can start getting it away from the backing plate. So now that our brake shoes are just sitting there, there's a spring and the adjustment. So what we have to do is we have to pull the brake shoe and bring it out of the adjustment so we can start taking them off because that spring is really strong. What we're doing is we're just trying to get the adjustment from the middle off so the spring can come in together, and then we can undo the spring from here. And that adjustment sits right on these grooves, but spread away. So it's sitting like this. And then the spring is on this hole and then on this hole, pulling them together, and then the adjustment is right here. So that's what spreads the brake shoes. So now that this is left, all we have is the half a piece of the adjustment sitting into this brake shoe, which is a rear. So we remove it. Now this is the adjustment that we have removed. One side is narrower, that goes towards the front, and the wider one goes towards the back. So then this sits on the brake shoes, is set more like this. This is about how it sat on the brake shoes. So as you can see, that's what's hidden right behind the axle, but this is how it sits. So that's adjust as the brake shoes start wearing out, so that these are almost touching the drum all the time. So now we can start taking the other brake shoe off. A lot of people are going to agree and a lot of people are not going to agree with me, but the drum brake system are a nightmare sometimes, or most of the times, because to take them off, you got to go through cutting yourself, and there's a lot of components that you got to remove. And then there's so many springs, little tensions, little things like that, just to replace brake shoes that they're not even efficient. These things are old technology that doesn't that require high maintenance, and they don't actually work like the rotors. So a lot of people, if they're gonna get these replaced and people are gonna charge you, they're gonna charge you good, because these components are really hard to take off and put on, and they have to be adjusted, and they're just a nightmare sometimes for most people. I don't like drums. So now what we have to do is we have to split this clip a little bit so it comes off, and then we can remove this plate from the brake shoe, and that spring has to come off from there as well. So we had to transfer all this into the new brake shoe. But before we take the spring off, let's open that clip so it releases and comes off, and then we remove this spring. So now that we have removed that clip, what we do is we take out the spring from here, and then we can start removing all this off from this brake shoe. So now that we have removed the old brake shoe, we are gonna put the new one in there with all these components, and then we put the clip in the spring. So what we do now, before we put the brake shoe, we just sand it down a little bit, so we take off all the rough surface off. So that's gonna give us a better contact to the drum and an adjustment. So we just sand it down just smoothly. So now we grab our brake shoe, we put it into the components, and we pass it through that hole right up here, that pin through there, and then once we have it in through all the way, we put the clip. So now that we have transferred the new brake shoe to the e-brake or emergency parking brake, and we have put the clip, we have put the spring, so now we can put it over here, put the adjustment, and then put the clip that goes here to hold the brake against the backing plate, and then put the big spring that goes on top, so we can start with the other brake shoe on the other side. So now what we do is we close all of the threads against the on the adjustment, so that way we have less space that we need to spread open for the brakes, for the shoes to fall in here. And now we can put some grease here. So now what we can do is we can put our adjustment right in there, and then our brake spring that goes from here to the other brake shoe, and then we can connect it to the other brake shoe and then force it in a little bit and guide it into the piston. One thing about the brake shoe is that this cutout has to be vertical, so this can fit right in there. That has to guide right in there. So now the wider opening on this goes towards the back, and the narrow part goes towards the front. Now this spring goes into that hole right there, and then it tilts a little bit forward, and then the other one goes right in here. So this is a tricky one. So this brake shoe is gonna fall. We're gonna put the spring, and then we're gonna tilt it and force it in, guide that guy right in there into that groove, and at the same time guide this over here. That's the easiest part for us because we can guide it, and the spring is keeping tension in. So you're fighting tension against guiding. So now what we can do is we can put the bottom spring, and then we can put the securing point like that guy for the front brake shoe, and then we can put our drum in. So now that we have the bottom spring on as well, we have the technique that we rarely use any pliers except for these and the pliers just to get the clip on and off. So now what we can do is we can put the clip or the securing point for the brake shoe on the front, just like the back. So now we do that. So now we have replaced the drum brakes shoes on this. So all we have to do is just start splitting that brake shoe adjustment a little bit open, and we can put our drum and slide it and see how far it is, so we can start doing the adjustments. So now we have adjusted our brakes, and we have put the drum in there, and they're barely touching. So we're gonna do a final adjustment later on. So at this point, we can put our wheel back on, and what we have done to one side we do to the other side. So now that we have replaced the driver's side rear brakes, we take the passenger drum off, and so we can start installing the new brake shoes. We take this washer that is securing the brake towards the structure, so we can slide it over, and then we can take the spring off from the bottom. So now that we took the brake shoe off, we take the adjuster forward, so half of the brake shoe in the back now. So now we take this clip off so we can replace this brake shoe with a new one. And this is our adjustment, so we gotta close it in so we can start with the new brake shoes. So now what we have to do is we split this clip and open so we can get it off, and then we can slide everything through, and then we take the spring off so we can get the new brake shoe into that structure, and we can start putting the clip in and then the spring. So one thing you can do, so you don't want to be fighting this clip right here on the when the e-brake is on the structure, what you can do is you can pull this spring back and then slide it a little bit backwards and then slide it off of there, so you can take this structure and work in the bench, so you can take this the clip off in a better controlled environment than hanging in here. So we're going to be doing that. So now that we have taken it off, we can maneuver this in a better control environment, so we can take the clip off. So now that we have our new brake shoe into this hardware, into the e-brake or handbrake plate, we can sand it down a little bit to get the rough surface off, so it's better adjustment when we're doing it and there's less dust inside there. And then we can start putting the cable into the plate and then start sliding it in. So now what we can do is we can put half of the adjustment here, and then we can put our brake shoe into the structure of the brake system and clip it down so it's held there, and we can start putting the other half together. So now we can put our other half of the adjustment right in there, and we got to put some grease in this point so it has a lubricant. So at this point, we're about to install our front brake shoe. We're going to sand it down a little bit just to get the rough surface off, and then we can put the top spring and then guide it, and we can put the bottom spring and then the clip. So now what we do is we put the spring on one side, we put it on the other brake shoe, and then we force this brake shoe into here by stretching it out and force it to fall right in there. And then we can guide it back so it falls right where it needs to be, and that puts the tension into the spring. Because if you try to do it pliers, it's a lot harder. And now we can put the clip on this side so it holds the brake shoe against the structure. And that's it. We just got to do the adjustment so we can start sliding our drum in, and then do a final adjustment once the tire is rotating in there. So we start doing the initial adjustment just to get the drum in there. So right here, we still got too much space. The brakes or the shoes are not even touching the drum yet. So we got to adjust them more. So when we're doing the adjustment, we're spinning that. And what we're doing is that splitting off. Half of it and half of it are getting apart because there's threads. And then what's happening is getting the shoes closer to the drum. So now we're touching the drum a little bit. We still got to do some adjustment. So the final adjustment is through the inside. So we're done. We replaced the passenger side brake shoes as well. We put our drum back in. We adjusted them. We just got to put the wheel back on and we're ready for the road. And well, folks, hopefully this video was useful and helpful on how to replace the rear brake shoes on a 98 to 2004 Nissan Frontier 2-wheel drive or 4-wheel drive. And like we show you the procedures, if you think it's too much work, so you want to take it to a shop or you want to do it yourself. So we gave you an idea how we did this procedures or replacement ourselves, so we don't have to take it to a shop. So with that said, folks, for friends who are watching the video, haven't subscribed to the channel, please subscribe. If you like a video, give us a thumbs up. share it, and we'll see you soon with more videos here in el canal, el Chano José.